When the groom sneered that old people shouldn't speak, I set down my glass, nodded to my attorney, and watched her claim the microphone, the contract, and the room, because sometimes silence is the sharpest blade before truth cuts through lies. Before watching the video, please tell us in the comments from where you are watching this video. The ballroom smelled like buttered rolls and florist glue, the expensive kind. I stood near the back where the lights softened and the band tuned quietly. Megan's laugh rippled across tables like a memory I'd earned the hard way. I raised my glass, waiting for the groom to finish his joke about in-laws. He leaned on the microphone like a salesman leaning on a hood. "Old people shouldn't speak at weddings," he said, grinning wide and careless. The room laughed, thin and nervous, then checked my face. I set my glass down and let the bubbles settle. Megan blinked at me, then at him, and pressed her napkin into a tight square. Lorraine's jaw set like a clamp on a stubborn pipe. Tyler kept going because men like him mistake volume for charm. "Tonight is about the future, not dusty advice," he said, teeth flashing. "Let the young lead for once." The band leader stared at his shoes and waited. I kept my hands easy at my sides and counted the seconds until the laughter died. "You finished, son?" I asked, keeping my voice soft enough to travel. A few heads turned, hoping for a gentle save. Tyler smiled like a man who thinks he has the room by the wallet. "Kidding, Walt," he said. "You know I'm joking." "I know a lot," I said, "and I also know when to wait." Dana, across the room, noted the timestamp on her program with a pen. "Weddings expose seams even a tailor can't hide. People whisper when cake carts roll and secrets wobble." I watched servers thread between centerpieces like careful referees. Megan's eyes asked me for peace, the old kind, not surrender. "We'll remember tonight for the right reasons," she had told me last week. "We will," I promised, because promises are the only currency I trust. Tyler clinked his glass and invited toast from friends with shiny watches. They spoke in braggy blurbs about hustle, crypto, and grind. Lorraine leaned close and whispered, "He doesn't know who he's poking." "He'll learn the polite way," I said, "or the documented way." Dana folded her program and nodded once, the signal we agreed on. I learned patience in a machine shop that shook like thunder. When the press rammed steel, you respected timing or lost fingers. Marriage, business, and grief use the same math. Pressure, release, proof. Tyler drifted table to table, shaking hands like a candidate with a secret poll. He squeezed backs, promised rounds, and flashed that empty grin. "You doing okay?" Megan asked when she reached me. "I will be," I said, touching her shoulder lightly. "Don't let a joke ruin your night." "It didn't ruin it," she said, though her smile faltered. "It just made it clearer." "Clarity pays dividends," I said. She nodded, and her eyes watered, then steadied. I remember when Megan was 9 and scraped her knee on gravel. She didn't cry until she saw blood on my shirt. Some people see care as weakness, others know it's a contract. I became her godfather after her dad left a mess and a note. Responsibility settled into my bones like winter. I built a modest portfolio, nothing flashy, just honest compounding. When her mother worked doubles, I taught Megan what a ledger means. Numbers tell stories you can't charm. Tyler never learned that lesson or thought he could invent new math. His jokes landed like IOUs written on napkins. Dana caught my eye from across the room and tapped her watch once. The band shifted to a softer standard and the air cooled. He raised the mic again to roast the old guard, and some laughed harder. "We're rewriting the rules tonight," he said, slapping his chest. "New traditions, new playbook, new life." "Then sign your name to it," I said, not loud, just firm. Heads pivoted like weather vanes into a sudden draft. Tyler squinted. "What was that, Walt?" "If you're writing new rules," I said, "you can read small print." He smirked and opened his hands to the crowd. "We got a rebel in the back," he said. "All love, though." "All documents," I replied. Dana stood then, smoothing her navy dress, and the nearby tables stilled. The Maitre d' killed a spotlight, like even the lights wanted to listen. Megan stepped between us, calm as a nurse before a tough stitch. "Please," she said, "let's keep it kind." "Kindness is truth delivered on time," I said quietly, "and tonight is on time." Lorraine took Megan's hand and squeezed, a steady metronome of support. Tyler's groomsmen shifted, uncertain where to laugh next. One of them muttered, "Bro, it's your night, chill." Tyler ignored him and pointed the mic at me. "You want the floor, Walt? Take it." "No," I said, nodding toward Dana. "She'll handle it." A few guests chuckled, thinking it was another old man quip. Dana didn't smile. She simply approached the bandstand with measured steps. The room tracked her like a slow-moving verdict. "Good evening," Dana said, voice calm, not loud, perfectly placed. "I'm Dana Whitaker, attorney for Mr. Walter McKinney." A rustle moved through the crowd like wind through a cornfield. "We're not doing legal stuff," Tyler said, strain squeaking under his words. "Actually," Dana said, "we're doing clarity." She set a folder on a vacant music stand and clicked a pen. "There are agreements attached to tonight's events. Some were signed, some were not. Some were attempted under pressure." Megan looked at me, searching my face for betrayal. "I told you I'd protect you," I said gently. "Protection is not interference. It's boundaries you asked me to hold." Her shoulders dropped an inch, and she nodded once. Tyler laughed too hard, the way people laugh when paper corners cut. "Look, folks," he said, "this is all a misunderstanding." "We'll define misunderstanding," Dana said, eyes steady. "First, the trust created for Ms. Caldwell when she was 19. "That's private," he snapped, waving the mic like a baton. "It stays private," Dana said, "unless someone tries to misuse it." She lifted one page and read one sentence, only the necessary part. "Distributions for health, education, maintenance, and support at trustees' discretion." She paused to let the words sit in the chairs. "Discretion means case-by-case judgment," she said, "not a debit card for someone's side ventures." Murmurs warmed to a low boil. A bridesmaid whispered, "What side ventures?" Then caught herself. I watched Tyler's smile crack like cheap chrome. "Walt's just old-fashioned," he said, forcing the corners up. "He doesn't understand modern investments." "Explain them," I said, keeping my hands still and open. "Show me the returns, the risk, the time horizon." "We don't need a seminar," he said, eyes slipping sideways. Dana flipped another page. "2 promissory notes," she said, "both unsigned by Ms. Caldwell, both drafted by Mr. Brooks, both promising bridge funds from her trust after marriage." The room went quiet the way courtrooms go quiet before a ruling. "You dug through my drawers," Tyler said, voice thinning. "We didn't need to," Dana said. "You emailed them to a man you called Investor Pete. That's a shell address you control." The groomsmen stared anywhere else. Megan exhaled like a punctured tire, steady, long, and sad. "You told me we'd build together," she said, voice flat. "I believed you." "We are building," he said, reaching toward her. She stepped back, measured and sheer. "You belittled the only person who ever kept me safe," she said, "and you tried to turn what he built into chips for your table." "That's unfair," he said, words tumbling now. "I was excited about our future." "Excitement is not a plan," Dana said, "and deception voids consent." She set the last page down, lined square with the others. "The trust remains intact. Any access requires documented need and my client's approval." She looked at me, and I nodded once. Enough. I didn't need to raise my voice. I simply let the facts breathe. "You want the young to lead," I said. "Start with honesty." A server coughed into a sleeve and rolled a cart backwards. The band pretended to tune, grateful for work they understood. Tyler looked around for a friendly face and found none brave enough. "This is my wedding," he said, shoulders tight, mouth small. "Yes," I said, "and marriages are built on respect. Old people shouldn't speak," he repeated, but there wasn't any laugh left. "Then listen," Lorraine said, stepping forward for the first time, "because listening is how adults keep promises." Megan took her ring hand and folded it against her heart. Dana closed the folder. Not dramatic, just final. "We're done for tonight," she said. "Celebrate the couple if you choose, but understand the boundaries are firm." I lifted my glass again, not for him, but for her. "To Megan," I said, clear and steady. "To health, to honest work, to money that tells the truth." Glasses rose like small lanterns finding their place in the dark. Megan held my eyes and mouthed, "Thank you," a debt I never needed. Tyler stared at the floor where his words had fallen. Silence did what lectures never do. It measured character without mercy. I drifted toward the hotel bar after the toasts, keeping quiet. Ice rattled like coins as the bartender worked in practice loops. 2 groomsmen leaned by the service door and whispered fast. I paused near a framed print and studied its fake brushstrokes. One said Tyler would clear the Amex when Megan's trust released. The other asked when it released because rent was late again. Their laughs sounded rubbery and thin, stretched across worry and pride. The bartender watched them in the mirror and kept polishing. He didn't smile. He counted tab slips like prayers. I let their words settle because truth grows louder when ignored less. The hallway smelled like lemon polish and borrowed confidence. A coordinator rushed by and hugged a clipboard like a shield. She told a vendor the lighting invoice would run tomorrow. He said the card failed twice already this afternoon. Her smile shook, then settled like a curtain after wind. I didn't chase it. Money confesses faster than people when cornered. The bandleader approached and tugged his tie into obedience. "Everything good, Mr. McKinney?" he asked, voice careful as suede. "Good enough," I said, and his shoulders dropped a notch. He knew the sound of a night going wrong by inches. I ordered water with lime and kept my wallet asleep. The bartender's hands moved like a metronome counting bad habits. "Rough crowd?" he asked, eyes on the rinse tray. "Rough timing," I said, letting the ice settle my jaw. 2 nurses from Megan's unit slipped onto the end stools. One said she saw Tyler whispering near valet with a stranger. The other said she heard the word transfer under the horns. I listened and left them room instead of heavy questions. They understood and turned back to their ginger ales. Good people don't need coaching to see smoke rising. Tyler slid through the door with a shine he couldn't hide. He scanned exits the way a salesman checks mirrors for taillights. When he found me, he wore his loan office smile. "All good, Walt?" he asked, patting my arm. "Enjoying the future?" "Enjoying the facts," I said, steady as a drill press. He laughed and glanced at the bartender for approval he wouldn't get. "We'll handle confusion tomorrow," he said, syrup in his voice. "Tonight isn't paperwork. Tonight is character," I said, and let it land. He nodded like a man who hates tests he can't charm through. Megan reached me and rested her hand on the brass rail. Her eyes carried years I remembered paying down in checks. "Tell me straight," she said in her nurse voice. "Am I missing something big?" I hated the ache hiding under her careful posture. "You're missing nothing," I said. "You're seeing enough to protect yourself." She bit her lip and nodded, brave without speeches or theater. "I wanted simple," she said. "He promised simple, and promises are cheap." A server set a tray down and hovered like thunder, unsure to roll. "Sir," he said to me, "a man asked about gift envelopes." He described a cousin with a tight suit and busier eyes. The bartender's shoulders rose, then fell into rhythm again. "We lock boxes," he said, "but sharks still circle lids." I respected his plain talk and tipped like respect was currency. The server thanked me and slipped through the kitchen doors. People began to watch without admitting it aloud. Weddings teach crowds to pretend nothing is wrong. The pretending always breaks before midnight, and never quietly. Lorraine joined us with radar-only mothers grow after long winters. "Vendors keep asking for a new card," she said, chin steady. "Our girl paid her share with a cashier's check last week. Megan said Tyler would float extras using points for a honeymoon hack." Lorraine's mouth became a line years never managed to bend. "Points stop working when banks stop believing you," she said. I remembered men who built castles on credit and lost Sundays. "We'll get through tonight," I said. Truth opens its mouth when patience holds. Megan squeezed my sleeve and breathed like a nurse before a hard stitch. Near the service door, the groomsman returned with a third friend. He wore dice cufflinks and spoke in quick, caffeinated bursts. "Wire hits Monday if she signs the addendum tonight," he said. My stomach cooled the way it does before heavy machinery bites. "No addendum," I whispered, mostly to steal my own bones. The bartender glanced over and kept polishing his endless glass. "You boys ordering or scouting?" he asked without raising volume. They ordered shots and clinked like gamblers testing a stubborn table. I stepped outside for air that didn't smell staged or sweet. The freeway hummed and the night waited, patient as a ledger. A Valand smoked near the hedge and hid the ember with his palm. "You Mr. McKinney?" he asked, voice low like a favor. I nodded, and he shifted the way kids do when honest. "Guy in a blue suit asked me which bank has limits. Said he needed cash for a closing after the bouquet toss." I thanked him and asked no more, because questions scare help away. He flicked the butt into a can and straightened his jacket. "Congrats to the bride," he said, like a blessing for luck. I let the freeway's hum clean the anger from my ears. Then I went back inside and found the room colder. Cake service forced smiles the way commercials force sunshine. Tyler fed Megan a bite and dabbed her nose with frosting. She laughed on cue, generous as nurses easing difficult patients. I watched his hand instead and tracked the ring's slight tremble. People mistake tremble for romance. Sometimes it's a tell. Dana stood by the doorway, posture loose, eyes sharp as drill bits. She didn't need my nod. She read rooms like ledgers. Anything new? She asked when we crossed in the aisle. Only patterns, I said, and patterns don't lie when money talks. The Monday after their engagement, Megan came by with a shoebox of papers. She set it on my kitchen table and rubbed a groove in the wood. Tyler wants a prenup fast, she said, eyes steady but tired. He says speed shows trust and lawyers slow love down. I poured coffee and let the steam carry old lessons forward. Speed hides details, I said, keeping my tone low and even. Let's start with what you actually own, not what he imagines. She nodded and lifted the lid like opening a first aid kit. The trust you set up when I was 19, she said. I've never used it for anything but nursing school bills. I touched the file gently, the way you test a railing before stairs. We walked through the basics I'd drilled since she was a teenager. It's for health, education, maintenance, and support, I said, calm and clear. That means school, medical needs, basic living, and emergencies. She repeated it back, like charting a patient after triage. You're the trustee, she said, so you decide if a request fits. Discretion means case-by-case judgment, I said. Not a blank check, not punishment. She asked if marriage changed anything, or if the trust became joint. No, I said. It remains separate property under the document and state law. She exhaled and stared at a knot in the table like a tiny storm. Then why does he want the prenup to mention it at all? She asked. Because mentioning creates leverage, even when money can't move. Tyler arrived later with a binder and a salesman's high beams. He kissed Megan, shook my hand, and flipped to a tabbed page. Nothing crazy, he said, tapping the header for rhythm and control. Just transparency and access so we can make decisions together. Transparency is fine, I said, keeping my palms flat on the table. Access is a different word with different consequences. He smiled the way people smile at a stubborn copier. I'm asking for acknowledgement that funds exist for joint goals, he said. Megan glanced at me, then at the line that said family, investments. Define that, I said, soft but precise as a micrometer. Real estate, a startup, maybe a clinic, he said, eyes bright as neon. Donna joined us by speakerphone because I don't play alone with contracts. I'll keep this simple, she said, voice steady and patient. A prenup can clarify what stays separate and what becomes marital. Great, Tyler said, upbeat like a radio ad on a rainy drive. So we include the trust in marital planning and call it teamwork. No, she said. We acknowledge it exists, then explicitly protect it. He laughed, small and sharp, and asked if protection wasn't negative thinking. Protection is clarity that prevents fights, Dana said. It limits surprises and bad temptations. Megan asked if the prenup could state the trust won't secure loans. Yes, Dana said. We add a clause barring pledges, guarantees, or collateral uses. Tyler slid in a new page like a card from a sleeve. But if a doctor's office needs bridge capital, he said, voice warming, we should be free adults and choose together without gatekeepers. Gatekeepers are called fiduciaries, Dana said, plain as a mechanic's invoice. They guard assets on purpose by duty, not moods. He asked if love didn't count as duty when building a future. Duty under law survives moods, she said. It holds when feelings don't. Megan's hands folded and unfolded like a slow clinic routine. I want a prenup that keeps peace, she said, measured and clear. Peace starts with lines we don't cross even when excited. Tyler stared at the ceiling as if answers lived in sprinkler heads. After he left, the house felt heavier and cleaner at once. Megan stood by the window and watched cars climb the hill. Tell me if I'm being unkind, she said, voice low. You're being careful, I said. Careful keeps futures from leaking. She asked if I regretted making the trust when she was 19. Not for a minute, I said. It made school possible and choices wider. She smiled, small but honest, and put the lid back on the box. Then let's make the prenup match the trust, she said. I nodded and dialed Dana so planning could turn into paper. Some storms you avoid by steering early and logging coordinates. Dana met me at her office, a brick building by the courthouse. The waiting room smelled like new carpet and firm boundaries. She set out a yellow pad and a glass of water. We'll keep the legal parts tight, she said, pen already moving. Plain English first, then clauses that stand up when pushed. I told her about Tyler's family investments and bridge capital language. She wrote 2 bullet points and underlined them once. He's telegraphing pressure spots, she said, We'll cover the holes. I liked how she said we, like a mechanic says torque. She built the skeleton while I watched firm, fair and strong. First, she said, confirm the trust's separate property status. Second, prohibit using it as collateral, security, or guarantee. Third, bar any gifts or loans from it without your written approval. Fourth, waive claims to trust growth during marriage. Fifth, mandate notarization for any amendment or consent. She paused and lifted her eyes to check my face. This is the backbone, she said. Not a wall, just a load-bearing frame. I asked if we needed a clause on emergency medical expenses. Already covered under HEMS, she said, but we'll echo it once more. We discussed signatures, timing, and the dance people do with pens. No signing under champagne, she said. No aisle-adjacent papers, no midnight pressure. Minimum 7 days to review, she added. Full disclosure attached as schedules. I asked about consideration, the legal trade that keeps promises enforceable. Mutual waivers and clarity are consideration here, she said steady. He gets certainty. Megan keeps her inheritance protected. What if he tries a side addendum with vaguer words? I asked. We block it, she said. Prenup language controls. Any addendum must match. I told her the part that bothered me past numbers and forms. He wants to move fast so feelings outrun facts, I said. Speed is a tactic, she replied. We slow the room and light the corners. She drafted a recital stating no one relied on verbal promises. That kills the he said under fireworks claims, she said. Everything lives on paper or nowhere. I asked if we needed to address marital debt treatment up front. Yes, she said and wrote. Premarital debts remain separate liabilities, and joint debts require both signatures and copies to the trustee. She smiled a little. People hide debt like mold. Sunlight helps. Megan arrived with calm that nurses borrow from long nights. She read clauses aloud, then asked simple, pointed questions. If we buy a house, she said, do we keep the trust outside? Yes, Dana answered. Use salary and mortgage, not trust collateral. If Tyler builds a business, Megan asked, do I shield the trust? Yes, Dana said. No security interests, no guarantees, no silent pledges. Megan circled the signature page and looked up at both of us. I'm not against helping, she said. I'm against gambling security I didn't win alone. That's the right line, I said, grateful for her steady compass. Dana slid the draft into a folder and capped her pen. Before we left, Dana added one more measured piece. We'll prepare an acknowledgement for the wedding day, she said. It states no last-minute changes, no verbal tweaks, nothing unsigned. Chain of custody for documents is my job, she added, firm. I asked how we verify if someone tries a bait and switch. Later, we keep certified copies and a notary's seal, she said. We log times, witnesses, and handlers like evidence. Megan smiled for real this time, not the rehearsed reception smile. Feels like boring safety, she said. The best kind, I answered and meant it. We stepped into afternoon sun that looked like it could carry weight. Planning had become a map. Now we followed it step by careful step. Dana's office ran on quiet gears, the kind that never grind. Her paralegal, June, laid out copies with edges neat as tiles. We traced Tyler's work history through public filings, Dana said calm. W-2s are shallow. The story hides in side companies and liens. I nodded and kept my hands still like holding a level line. June pointed to a sheet with a clean black header. Brooks Venture Holdings, LLC, she read. Formed last spring, registered in Delaware. Empty? I asked, hearing the answer before her tight smile. Banking shows activity, she said. Small deposits, then cash burn that smells desperate. Dana turned a page with the care surgeons use on first cuts. 2 merchant cash advances, effective interest pushing 40%. Where does Investor Pete fit? I asked, letting the name hang. June tapped a printout with highlighted mail headers. The Pete address forwards to a Gmail alias Tyler created, she said. Same recovery number as his ride-sharing account. Dana watched my face absorb that necessary ugliness. He sent himself encouragement and pretended outside validation, she said evenly. That's not a felony. The lies sharpen into fraud when money moves. I thought about young men who fake momentum like borrowed exhaust. He asked Megan to sign a lender acknowledgement after the bridal shower, I said. She refused because blank lines spook her. Dana nodded and wrote one tidy note to anchor our map. June slid over a small stack with faint courthouse stamps. Credit reports show 3 charge-offs and 1 live judgment, she said. Plaintiff is Maplewood Leasing, for office equipment he never returned. Dollar amount? I asked, because numbers strip stories naked. 6,000 principal, 9 with fees and costs, she answered. Dana added a second note and capped her pen deliberately. This paints pressure, she said. Pressure makes people shove lines and draft bad asks. I breathed slow, feeling heat turn to aim instead of noise. So we give him lines he can't cross without tripping alarms, I said. Dana's smile reached her eyes, small and professional, like a click. She called our investigator Rizzo, who sounded like gravel in rain. Your guy rented a shared office for the LLC, he said. Mailbox service, no real lease, no permanent staff. Dana asked about vendors and unpaid balances in town. Caterer for a product launch canceled last month, he said. Card declined twice, then he blamed fraud and vanished. I watched Megan's trust paper in my head like a locked gate. Any actual product? I asked, keeping the words measured, not bitter. A landing page and a demo video with lifted stock clips, he said. View counts are bots. The pricing page shows coming soon, forever. Dana thanked him and ended the call like closing a case file gently. Megan arrived after shift with her hair still in a neat clip. She sat, listened, and didn't cry because nurses ration tears. He asked me for the trust's account statements last week, she said. Said lenders would want to see capacity for future support. Donna met her eyes with steady courtroom-grade empathy. No lender needs third-party funds for capacity, Dana said. That's manipulation. Megan breathed and stared at the edge of her hospital badge. I wanted a partner who tells me the boring truth, she said quietly. Instead, I got a magician with mirrors. I reached across and tapped the folder once, like sealing a promise. We'll make the mirrors show their seams when the light hits. We planned without drama, because drama wastes fuel when engines matter. Dana drew the path on a pad in 5 compact steps. 1. Notarized prenup copy circulated to both families, she said. 2. Acknowledgement letter signed wedding morning, no addendums allowed. 3. Escrow a sealed packet of the trust instrument with me, she continued. 4. Place witnesses near the DJ booth and the gift table. 5. Prepare read aloud clauses in plain English for public clarity. I added a 6th in my head, and then voiced it. 6. Bait document with a harmless title that reveals intent quickly. Dana considered and nodded once, approving a clean kind of trap. Make it a family budgeting worksheet. No signature lines, she said. June drafted the worksheet with fields that looked ordinary, not sharp. Monthly plans, savings goals, and sources of support, she read calmly. Anyone who writes trust distributions for business expenses triggers concern. Megan studied it and shook her head with a tired half smile. He'll think he's clever if he writes small and messy, she said. We'll scan it if he bites, Dana answered almost kindly. I said biting requires hunger. Tonight would tell us his hunger's size. If he doesn't bite, we still have the email headers, I added, and the judgment and the shell company with smoke for walls. Dana gathered the pages into a stack that felt like ballast. We don't need embarrassment, she said. We need boundaries that hold. We visited the bank manager, who valued straight talk above charm. No third-party pledges from a spendthrift trust, she said, precise. Any banker who suggests otherwise is selling weekend fireworks. She printed a short letter explaining responsible lending in patient terms. If he waves obochao, comfort letter, call me, she told Megan. I'll confirm we don't accept phantom backstops. Megan pocketed the letter like a nurse pockets gauze between rooms. Simple words save hours later, she said, the truth of long nights. I thanked the manager for respecting quiet over flair. She nodded like someone who's seen weddings end in overdrafts. Back at Dana's, we rehearsed calm for when noise arrived. No yelling, Dana said. No sarcasm, no flourish, only clean sentences. She handed me a card with 3 lines I could say anywhere. We honor commitments written and signed, the first line read. The trust remains separate property, the second line confirmed. Any requests go through the trustee's process, the third line ended. Megan read them aloud the way nurses read orders for accuracy. I can do that, she said, voice steady as a blood pressure cuff. Lorraine joined, bringing the anchored presence of mothers who outlast winters. I'll hold the room while you hold the rules, she said firmly. Rizzo called once more with a final small piece that mattered. Your groom met a guy behind a strip mall last Tuesday, he said. They discussed a hardware buy that sounds like point-of-sale kits. Dana asked if stolen goods were involved, careful not to leap. Could be gray market, he said. Either way, he wants fast cash. I thanked him and let my breath settle into slower gear. Desperation multiplies shortcuts, I said, more to myself than anyone. Megan looked down at her ring, then up and stayed steady. Shortcuts cut the wrong things, she said. Tonight we keep the right things whole. We gathered our papers, not as weapons, just as rails for crossing. The week before the wedding, we ran our plan like a quiet drill. Dana called it a safety check. I called it keeping the rails straight. We chose a diner off the highway with a jukebox that rarely worked. The waitress knew how to leave people alone without making it awkward. I brought the harmless budgeting worksheet in a plain manila folder. Megan would not attend. That was my line, not negotiable. No scenes, I told Dana. No lures that twist meaning. We won't push, she said. We'll listen, log, and let choices speak. She reviewed the state's one-party consent rule for recordings. If he volunteers a plan, the record serves truth, she said. I made the first move that afternoon with a clean, short call. Tyler, I said, let's talk debt and timing so the honeymoon stays easy. He warmed to the word easy like parched ground to rain. Finally, he said, chuckling. I knew you were a practical man. I am, I said. Meet me at the Maple Diner at 6. He agreed before asking why the diner and not my house. Neutral ground, I said. Less emotion, fewer interruptions. The line clicked as he weighed image against need. Fine, he said. We'll settle nerves and keep the night smooth. Bring nothing, I added. We're discussing, not signing. He laughed again, lighter this time, like he had already won. Dana and I arrived early and took the back booth by the broken jukebox. She set her phone on the table with the screen dark. Battery full, recorder ready, she said, stating facts without drama. You'll lead with ordinary questions. I'll hold the law in place. I ordered coffee and let the steam slow my heart to a steady rhythm. I thought about Megan's face when she said she wanted boring truth. Truth is rarely boring when money noses around the edges. The waitress refilled our cups and winked like all diners share secrets. You two look like you're waiting on a storm, she said. Just checking weather patterns, I replied, and Dana half smiled. Tyler walked in wearing confidence like a borrowed jacket. He slid into the booth and drummed the table with 2 quick fingers. Appreciate the invite, he said, eyes on Dana, testing her place. Ms. Whitaker is my counsel, I said. She's here for clarity. He nodded like a man swallowing a large pill without water. Sure, he said. Clarity's my thing. The waitress took his order. He chose iced tea, no sugar. So, he said, leaning forward, wedding vendors hate uncertainty, and I hate late fees. Hate is loud, I said. We'll use quieter words. He smirked, then settled when silence didn't blink. I placed the budgeting worksheet between us like a placemat. Megan and I used this when she started nursing, I said. It keeps monthly plans honest. He scanned the headings and tapped the box marked Sources of Support. Exactly, he said. Support is how couples leap together. Support is how people stand without falling, I replied. Different angle. He took the pen the waitress left and rolled it between his fingers. If we list trust distributions here, he said, voice casual, does that count as planning? It counts as a request, Dana said, tone level as a spirit bubble. Any request still runs through the trust rules. He nodded and wrote nothing, just thought hard with the pen capped. We let him talk because talking reveals more than questions ever do. He sketched numbers in the margin like a boy drawing a ramp. Short bridge, 90 days, he said. Then profits roll in and we all breathe easier. Bridge to what? I asked. Point of sale devices, he said quickly. Bulk discount now, resell at a markup. Dana lifted one eyebrow a hair, then let it fall. Existing purchase orders? She asked. Letters of intent? He swirled his tea and watched the ice spin like change in a jar. We're at handshake stage, he said. Deals move faster when money shows up. Handshake doesn't survive court, Dana said. Paper does. He shrugged like courts were for. Slower people. I kept my voice even because heat breaks focus. You asked Megan for account statements, I said. Why? To calm lenders, he said. They like comfort letters and capacity proof. Capacity isn't comfort, Dana said, and comfort letters aren't guarantees. He leaned back and smiled the way salesmen smile at objections. You two think small, he said. I'm thinking about our family's future. Families rest on stability, I said, not on borrowed faith or secret pledges. He eyed the worksheet again and tapped savings goals. Look, he said, if the trust helps us seize one big opportunity, we leap ahead. The trust protects her, not your timeline, I said, voice steady as a lathe. He finally uncapped the pen and wrote 3 words small and quick. Trust, distribution, business, the line said, crammed into a margin. Dana didn't flinch. She just watched his hand like a good notary. Clarify purpose, she said. Inventory acquisition, he replied. Resale within 90 days. And if resale fails? I asked. We pivot, he said, cheerful and thin. We find another route. With the same money? I asked. He paused one breath too long and then smiled again. We'd make Megan whole, he said. I'd make her whole personally. With what? Dana asked, soft as a page turn. He stared at the condensation running down his glass and said nothing. The waitress slid the check toward me because older men get checks. I paid in cash and let the change clink like a gavel. We're finished, I said. No bridge, no pledge, no comfort letters. Tyler pushed the worksheet back with a little too much force. This is obstruction, he said. You're choking the marriage before it breathes. We're guarding it from smoke, I said. Breath comes easier without fires. Dana gathered the worksheet and tucked it into the folder. No signatures today, she said. No commitments beyond what's written in the prenup. He laughed without joy, the sound of rubber spinning on ice. Outside, the evening smelled like cooling asphalt and chain restaurants. Dana stood with me by the hood of her car and spoke low. He wrote the words himself, she said. Intent shines through ink. We didn't trap him, I said, needing to hear it aloud. We offered a map. He chose the ditch, she replied. Your line held. I let the quiet settle until it felt like a clean floor. We keep Megan out of the next part, I said. She learns facts, not blows. Dana agreed and noted the time in her small logbook. Next step is positioning, she said. Witness placement, audio checks, document custody. That night I called Megan from my porch while the crickets worked. I told her the broad strokes without the rough edges. He wants the trust to fuel a flip, I said. No paperwork, fast promise. She took it like a nurse hearing a lab value that confirms a hunch. Then the answer is no, she said. Simple is best. Simple is safest, I said. We'll keep it that way on Saturday. We ended the call with quiet that didn't feel empty. I slept fine, not because victory felt near, but because my line held. In the morning, I ironed my suit and wrote 3 sentences on a card. Clarity is kindness. Boundaries are love. Paper tells the truth. Wedding morning smelled like steam, starch, and hotel coffee. I met Dana in a small conference room off the lobby. She laid out folders with the calm of a nurse prepping sterile tools. Chain of custody starts now, she said, clicking her pen. Prenup certified copy, trustee letter, acknowledgement form. I read each header, then signed where I needed as trustee. No edits, no writers, I said, steady. If someone waves fresh paper, we walk. Dana nodded and slid the sealed trust packet into a locking envelope. Initial the seal, she said. Time and date under your initials. I wrote the marks and breathed like a machinist before the press comes down. The notary arrived with a neat stamp and a soft voice. She checked licenses, compared names, and logged the minute. No changes, Dana told her, slow and clear. This is only acknowledgement. No last-minute addendum, no verbal agreements. The notary stamped and slid the page back. Done, she said. It holds. I called Lorraine to confirm Megan's timeline and keep noise low. Hair at 9, dress at 10, photos at 11, she said. She's calm. Good, I said. Keep her away from paperwork and speeches. That's my plan, she replied. You hold the lines, I'll hold the room. Dana made 3 witness cards with our clean sentences printed bold. We place people like anchors, not spies. The band leader got card 1 and a quiet explanation. If someone says there's a new agreement, I told him, you signal a break. He nodded and tapped the tempo on his thigh. The DJ got card 2 with a simpler line. Announce a short pause if Ms. Whitaker requests the mic. Understood, he said, eyes steady. No drama. The bartender took card 3 and tucked it by the register. Someone might ask you to hold gift envelopes, I told him. Decline and call the Maitre d'. He gave a short salute. This bar takes cash and truth, he said. I liked his style more each hour. Dana spoke with the hotel manager near the service corridor. Gift table stays in line of sight, she said. No open access, no cousin valet. The manager agreed and pointed to a discreet floor camera. We'll add a second attendant, he said. 2 sets of eyes help. I thanked him and kept it short. Security works best when it looks like service. Rizzo texted a quick update. Our groom had been pacing near the valet an hour ago. He's calling someone about closing, the text read. I saved the message but didn't share it with Megan. She deserved vows, not radio chatter. I tucked the phone away and adjusted my tie until my hands settled. By noon, the bridal suite smelled like hairspray and clean linen. I stepped in, kissed Megan's forehead, and stayed out of the mirror's way. No speeches, no stress, she said, reading my face like a chart. No changes, I answered. Only the words you chose last month. She smiled without apology. Simple vows, she said. Simple rules, simple life. Lorraine zipped the dress and checked the hem twice. We keep it clean, she said. No surprise signatures, no side deals. Megan squeezed my hand and handed me a folded card. If anything goes strange, read this after, she said. It's not a goodbye letter, it's a boundary. I tucked it in my pocket and nodded once. Downstairs, Tyler moved like a man late to a discount. He shook hands, checked his phone, and flashed grin after grin. Dana intercepted him near the florist's cart. Quick note, she said, voice level. Here's your acknowledgement copy. Acknowledgement of what? He asked, smiling for a passing cousin. That there are no last-minute changes, she said. No verbal promises, no addenda. He laughed too loud. Who's changing anything? He said. Dana held his eyes. Good, she said. Then you're already in compliance. He signed the receipt for the copy and walked off, smile fixed like chrome. I watched the pen tremble slightly between his fingers and filed that shake away. The ceremony started on time, sun shining through borrowed chandeliers. The pastor spoke plain words about patience, work, and showing up daily. Megan's voice stayed calm and honest, like charting a vital sign. Tyler's vows ran longer, full of brightness and future talk. He said leap twice and build 3 times. People dabbed eyes because weddings make hope feel safe. I kept my feet planted and counted more than I felt. The ring slid home, and the applause rose like a held breath released. Outside, the photographer posed families while the hotel turned the room. I checked my watch and saw Dana do the same across the lawn. During cocktail hour, the first tremor hit. A cousin sidled to the gift table with a fresh envelope and a question. Can the groom keep these behind the bar? He asked, eyes busy. The attendant smiled and pointed to the locked box. All envelopes stay here, she said, firm. We log counts every 30 minutes. He shrugged and drifted back to the patio. Dana approached the DJ and spoke 4 quiet words. He nodded and adjusted a cable like nothing mattered. The bandleader tuned his guitar and waited for his cue. Witnesses weren't nervous. They were ready the way good crews get ready. 15 minutes before toasts, Tyler waved a thin document near the head table. Just a vendor confirmation, he told a groomsman. The paper flashed like a lure. Dana reached him with the ease of someone who reads rooms for a living. May I see it? She asked, light and polite. He folded it once and tucked it in his jacket. Boring logistics, he said. We'll keep romance alive. Dana kept her hands at her sides and her voice even. No documents enter this hour, she said. That's your acknowledgement speaking. He smiled on the surface. His eyes didn't. The bandleader caught my glance and lifted 2 fingers, our simple, quiet signal. We moved to the reception as servers placed salads. Glasses chimed, chairs scooted, and the microphone waited on its stand. I felt the room's current settle into one straight line. Dana checked her folder, closed it, and breathed once. Positions? I asked. Set, she said. If he pushes, we respond. If he doesn't, we eat cake. I took my seat and laid my hands flat on the table. Respect is quiet until it must be loud. When the groom lifted the mic and smirked, I already knew the next step. The rails were in place. The train would either glide or grind. Either way, we were ready, and paper would speak. The room settled after salads, the air thick with champagne and heat. Tyler lifted the mic like a trophy and smiled at his reflection in the window. He started with a joke about speed over speeches, and a few tables laughed. I kept my hands still and watched the bandleader's fingers tap our signal. Dana stood, smoothed her dress, and reached the mic with steady steps. Good evening, she said, voice calm and clear like a level on steel. I'm Dana Whitaker, attorney for Walter McKinney. The room shifted, not hostile, just alert, the way shops quiet before a safety briefing. Tyler's smile tightened, but he stayed at her shoulder like a billboard with legs. Megan held her napkin and looked straight at me, eyes steady and brave. We'll keep this simple, Dana said, laying a folder on the music stand. There are no last-minute agreements tonight. She announced the acknowledgement he signed that morning in neutral words. No verbal promises, no addenda, no side letters, no comfort notes, she continued. The prenup controls. The trust remains separate property. Tyler tried to laugh, but the sound glanced off chairs and died early. This is my wedding, he said, to no one and everyone. We're not doing court here. We're doing clarity, she said, not rising to the bait. Clarity protects people you claim to love. Lorraine nodded once, and Megan exhaled like a nurse finishing a hard stitch. The DJ lowered the background track until only glass stems made noise. Dana flipped the first page and read exactly one sentence. Distributions for health, education, maintenance, and support, at trustees' discretion. She paused to let the meaning land in easy language. Discretion means case-by-case judgment, she said. Not collateral, not guarantees, not business float. Tyler shifted his weight and looked for a friendly laugh that wasn't there. We're just talking teamwork, he said, lifting his hands like a coach. Teamwork writes itself down, Dana replied, even and plain. She lifted a second sheet and held it where he could see. You drafted 2 promissory notes, she said, both promising bridge funds from the trust after marriage. A low murmur rolled through the room like distant thunder finding walls. He shook his head and tried a smaller smile that didn't fit. Doodles, he said. We all brainstorm. Your investor Pete agreed in emails you wrote to yourself, she said. We traced the alias to your recovery number. He stared at the floor, then at the ceiling, then at the exit. That's creative direction, he said, voice thinning. Selling the dream. Selling the dream with someone else's security is called pressure, she said. Pressure voids consent. She set the worksheet on the stand, the same one from the diner. The pen mark in the margin faced the light where everyone could see. Whose handwriting is this? She asked, not sharp, just exact and patient. It's mine, he said, then tried to make it sound like honesty. Planning notes, nothing binding, he added quickly, eyes skittering. The words are trust distribution, business, she read, calm as a clock. Inventory acquisition, 90-day resale. No purchase orders, no letters of intent. I watched his shoulders climb his neck like rope pulled wrong. He scanned faces and found them glassy and still. Megan, tell them we had a plan, he said, pleading for an audience. Megan didn't speak. She looked at the napkin like it was a wound. Lorraine stepped forward and kept her voice low. We planned vows, she said, not loans. The bandleader set his pick down and folded his hands, ready for the next bar. Dana closed the folder halfway, like a door waiting to settle. There's also a live judgment for unreturned equipment, she said, measured. 9,000 with costs. Tyler winced as if the number pinched a nerve he couldn't hide. That's personal, he said. It doesn't touch us. It touches your promises, she said. Debt undercuts vows when you hide it. She turned to the guests and kept the language plain. No one here owes anyone a rescue, she said. Tonight is celebration, not collateral. A server froze mid-pour, then finished the glass and stepped back quick. The bartender stopped polishing and set the towel down like a gavel. Tyler grabbed for the mic, and Dana let him hold dead air. I love her, he said, swallowing hard. I'm trying to build us a real future. Build with your tools, I said, even and quiet. Not hers. He stared at me as if I had pulled a lever on his evening. You don't believe in me, he said, voice tight at the edges. I believe facts, I said. Belief without facts is gambling. He turned to Megan again, his voice softer, almost careful. Babe, it's us against the world, he said. Don't let paperwork make us small. Megan raised her eyes and spoke like a nurse giving hard news gently. Paper didn't make this, she said. Your choices did. Dana lifted the acknowledgement copy and read the last line aloud. No document offered during the event shall be considered, she recited. Any such attempt triggers immediate refusal. The DJ on cue lowered the lights by a hair and killed a spotlight. If you have a paper in your jacket, she said, looking at Tyler, keep it there. He didn't move, but the room moved around him, 1 foot at a time. A cousin reached for the gift table and then dropped his hand, chastened. The hotel manager stepped closer to the doorway, not threatening, just present. Security done right feels like good manners pressed into service. I raised my glass and kept my voice level and short. To Megan, I said, steady and plain, to honest work, to health, to money that tells the truth. Glasses rose like small lamps along a quiet road. People drank, not to toast drama, but to anchor sense. Tyler stared at the microphone like it might offer a refund. "We can still fix this," he said, less certain now, smaller by inches. "Fixing starts with honesty," Dana said. "Honesty starts with stopping." She set the mic back on the stand with a soft click that felt final. The band took the cue and found a gentle standard that eased the edges down. Megan stood and touched my sleeve like a steadying rope. "Thank you," she said, voice strong enough to carry but not showy. "I want cake, not arguments," she added, a small tired smile breaking through. The room loosened, the way shops do after a machine shuts off. Servers moved, guests breathed, and the piano filled the seams. Tyler stayed where he stood, holding a future that finally told him no. He wasn't alone, but he was out of room to bluff. I didn't gloat, I just let the quiet measure the truth. Silence did what shouting never does. It left only facts standing upright. The reception thinned after the song, and Tyler vanished toward the valet lane. I told Lorraine to keep Megan inside with cake and quiet friends. Dana and I walked out under the hotel portico where heat clung low. The valet I'd met earlier lifted his chin toward the far curb. Tyler paced by a sedan, whispering "closing" and "device drop" to his phone. Two groomsmen flanked him like goalposts that couldn't stop anything. The cousin with busy eyes hovered near a canvas tote of envelopes. "Don't touch that box," the hotel manager said, voice controlled and present. The cousin smiled, then thought better of it when security stepped closer. Dana opened her notebook and noted the time with one small stroke. Tyler spotted us and came forward, wearing a grin that didn't reach. "Congratulations again," he said, sarcasm hiding behind his perfect teeth. "You turned a wedding into a shareholder meeting." "We turned it into honesty," Dana said, even and clear. He gestured toward the tote and tried to pass it to a groomsman. "Family gifts need a safer spot," he said, selling the lie as service. The manager shook his head and pointed to the lockbox cart. "Gifts remain logged and secured," he said, firm as a door jamb. Tyler's jaw flexed and his free hand slapped the sedan roof hard. "You can't control everything," he said, voice climbing a shaky rung. "Control isn't the point," I said. "Integrity is." The valet stepped between the tote and the groomsmen without drama. The phone call returned, loud enough for even Patience to hear. "I can't do cash now," Tyler said, turning away and pacing lines. "We'll liquidate Monday after the license posts." The words hung like wet laundry in hot air, heavy and telling. Dana's eyebrow twitched at the license line she did not dignify. "End the call," she said, soft but cut square. "You're trespassing on boundaries and policies right now." He ended it with a thumb jab and glared like glare could move locks. "You think cops scare me?" he asked, already daring the wind. "No," Dana said. "Paper does." She nodded to the manager, and he radioed calmly for a response unit. Cousin Busy Eyes decided to try courage and reach for the tote again. The security guard caught his wrist and eased the bag back to the cart. "We're logging counts every 30 minutes," the manager repeated. "Step away, please." The cousin muttered about control freaks and shook off the warning. One groomsman cleared his throat and spoke to Tyler without looking at him. "Bro, this isn't worth it," he said, voice thin but honest. "Let's just go inside and smile." Tyler stared at him like betrayal came with rented shoes. "We're not done," he said, though his shoulders already told the truth. I kept my hands open and quiet, and the night held its breath. 2 patrol cars eased to the curb, lights steady and blue, no siren. The older officer took point, hat squared, questions polite and exact. "What's the issue tonight?" he asked, pen ready but patient. The manager explained the gift table policy and the tote confusion. Dana added her sentence about the acknowledgement and the no-doc rule. "We have no complaint yet," she said, deliberate. "Just a need for calm." The younger officer walked the tote to the lockbox cart and nodded. "We'll stand by while you count," he said, keeping his tone friendly. Tyler folded his arms and tried another smile that didn't fit. "This is harassment," he said. "It's my wedding." "It's their property and policy," the older officer replied, steady as a plumb line. Dana produced the diner worksheet when asked about context. "He wrote this phrase himself," she said, pointing at the margin note. The officer read it, then returned the page without comment or theater. "Any threats or physical contact?" he asked, checking the easy boxes. "None," the manager said. "Just attempts to redirect envelopes in a scene." The older officer turned to Tyler and gave him a patient option. "Enjoy your evening peacefully, or we document a trespass warning," he said. Those are hard to explain later. One groomsman looked at his shoes, and then at me like a kid. I told him the plan was sketchy, he said, words spilling out. Tyler glared again, then stared at the parking lines like they'd moved. Megan stepped outside with Lorraine. Not rushed, not stagey, just steady. She stopped 10 feet from Tyler and kept her voice level as a nurse. I'm leaving with my mother tonight, she said. We'll speak in Dana's office tomorrow. He took one step forward, and then remembered everybody watching him breathe. Babe, we can fix this, he said, voice sagging at the edges now. End the sales pitch, she said, calm as a chart note. I want quiet and honest days. She slid the ring into her clutch without flourish or spite. Lorraine stood beside her like a winter coat that always fits. The older officer looked at Tyler and tipped his hat a fraction. Tyler tapped his phone, called a ride, and waited in shrinking circles. The cousin disappeared toward the lobby with claims of a bathroom break. The groomsman who had spoken earlier offered Megan a small apology. I didn't know the details, only the pressure, he said. She nodded once, kind but finished speaking. Dana thanked the officers and exchanged names for a clean report. Civil matters go to court, the older one said, friendly and final. Tonight, be safe. The cars drifted off, quiet as good exits. The valet rolled a fresh breeze across the lane with his lanyard swing and smile. We finished the night with simple cleanup and no speeches at all. Lorraine got the car, and I spoke to the manager about the count. All envelopes tallied and logged, he said. No gaps. I thanked the bartender for guarding the bar like a small courthouse. He shrugged and said rules make lives easier when you let them. Megan hugged me once, tight and short, then exhaled years. Tomorrow we file boundaries, she said, eyes clear as morning roads. Tomorrow we file calm, I answered, and Dana nodded once. The freeway hummed steady while we pulled away from glitter that no longer mattered. Dana's office felt like a clinic for messy days. We sat at the same table and laid out the same calm tools. We start with a protective order, she said, crisp but kind. It's a court paper that tells someone to stop certain contact. She explained a civil injunction in plain English, not Latin or theater. An injunction is a stop sign the judge draws, she said. If he pushes the trust again, the sign stays bright. Megan listened without flinching and wrote dates in a neat column. File the injunction, she said. File anything that keeps the trust quiet. Dana nodded and slid a blank verification across for signatures. We'll also ask for declaratory relief, she added. That's a ruling that confirms the trust is separate. We built the packets like adults who know storms won't wait. Affidavit from the hotel manager, Dana said, noting his name and role. Affidavit from the bartender about the tote and attempted removal. Copy of the diner worksheet, she continued, tapping the margin note. Copy of the prenup acknowledgement signed wedding morning. Lorraine supplied a short, steady statement about the gift table and timing. I added mine with facts only and no hobby speeches. Keep it dry, Dana said. Judges like dry when money is wet. Megan kept her voice low and strong when she summarized the wedding. No violence, just pressure, she said. I want distance and a clean ledger. Dana drafted a notice letter demanding no contact about assets, present or future. We spoke about criminal lines and kept our feet on the sidewalk. Police logged the parking lot, Dana said. No charges now. We keep it civil. She explained attorney's fees like a wrench you use only when needed. Sometimes a judge makes the other side pay if they acted badly, she said. We ask. We don't count on it. Megan pressed her palm to her clutch like a stethoscope. I didn't lose money, she said. I lost peace. I want it back. The orders help, Dana said. Peace loves guardrails. She listed service methods that made papers stick. Personal service by a marshal, she said, then email to his counsel for speed and clarity. By noon, packets stood stacked in tidy layers, ready to move. The runner took copies to the courthouse with a receipt and a nod. Dana sent a settlement letter that didn't bend or tremble. Cease and desist from referencing the trust, it read. Acknowledge separate property status in writing. Provide a full debt list under penalty of perjury, it added. Pay vendor balances you created in your name. I liked the letter's plain steps. It sounded like machine guards clicking home. Lorraine brewed coffee and told Megan supper would be roast and quiet. We keep you fed and off screens, she said. No comment reading marathons. I called the bank manager and flagged accounts for fraud alerts. We'll watch for odd inquiries, she said. I'll brief my team today. The judge signed a temporary order by late afternoon. Steady and unsentimental. No contact with trustee about trust assets, it said, clean as a sign. No attempts to obtain records or pledge collateral. No third-party requests through friends, family, or vendors, it added. Dana read it once, then again, testing its weight like steel. It holds, she said. We'll set a hearing for a longer order. Megan nodded like a nurse reviewing discharge instructions with a patient. I'll block his number and route anything through you, she said. I want simple evenings. You'll have them, I said. We'll make the noise hit the court, not your door. Dana packed her case with the same unhurried care she used on day one. Court day arrived cool and bright, with a line at the metal detector. The hallway hummed with shoes, whispers, and second thoughts. We sat outside Department 8 and watched other cases move. No surprises, Dana said. We stick to our 3 sentences. She handed me the card I'd carried for weeks, now soft at the edges. We honor commitments written and signed, the first line said. The trust remains separate property, the second repeated. Any requests go through the trustee's process. The third ended. Megan held my arm and breathed a steady nurse's breath. Whatever happens, she said, we walk out with peace. That's the only win I'm counting, I said and meant it. Tyler arrived with a lawyer who looked like he favored speed. The man shook Dana's hand and asked for a hallway chat. We can resolve without fireworks, he said, low and practiced. Dana nodded and kept her voice flat and fair. Then stipulate to a longer injunction, she said. Acknowledge separate property and stop all contact. He asked for soft language about team goals and financial collaboration. No, Dana said. We don't bend nouns into loopholes. He checked his notes, then tried a different door. Mutual non-disparagement, he offered. No social media potshots. Agreed, Dana said. We protect quiet as part of peace. Megan listened and didn't flinch when Tyler glanced her way. We entered the courtroom and let the formal air do its work. The judge read the file and set her glasses a little higher. I see a trust, a prenup, and a new marriage, she said. I also see pressure where there shouldn't be. Dana spoke first and kept it tight. We request a 1-year injunction, she said. No discussion of trust assets, no attempts to pledge, no third-party workarounds. Tyler's lawyer argued the worksheet was brainstorming, not a plan. Intent matters, the judge said. Pairs can dream, they cannot coerce. She asked if any money had left the trust or changed hands. None, Dana answered. The order is preventative because pressure is present. The judge granted the injunction with crisp terms and clean dates. 1 year subject to review, she said. Violations bring sanctions. She required a sworn debt list from Tyler within 14 days. Transparency is the first broom, she said, and moved to the next file. Outside, Tyler's lawyer suggested a broader settlement with real numbers. He'll pay the vendor balances, he said. He'll cover your fees up to a cap. Dana wrote down the offer and crossed out the cap. Fees by the court's discretion, she said, and a signed statement that he won't seek trust records ever. He hesitated, then nodded, seeing the slope was fixed and fair. Megan asked for one more piece that mattered to the heart. A written apology, she said, voice calm as a discharge note. Not for the marriage, for the pressure. Dana looked at her, then at the lawyer. Put it in, she said. Short, sincere, no spin. The lawyer agreed and promised drafts by Friday. Tyler stood apart, speaking into his phone with smaller words. I didn't gloat. I watched the hallway clock and felt my chest loosen. Peace doesn't shout. It clicks like a well-set bearing. We left with papers that sounded like rails holding a straight line. Megan squeezed my hand once, then exhaled a winter I had heard for months. That evening, we held a quiet dinner at my house with a roast and quiet music. Lorraine said grace with a voice that had carried us across storms. Thank you for guardrails and for people who hold them, she said. Megan smiled without apology and sliced bread with clean strokes. The order isn't revenge, she said. It's oxygen. I agreed, and put the signed injunction on the mantel for one night. Tomorrow it goes in the file, I said. Tonight it's a proof of calm. Dana stopped by to drop a copy and stayed for pie in silence. When she left, the house settled like good lumber in a frame. We slept early, because tired families deserve morning without alarms. 2 weeks later, we sat on my back porch with plates and quiet. The maple threw late light across the table like a steady hand. Lorraine passed roast chicken and looked like she could finally breathe. Megan set out corn and a small bowl of pickles because her dad loved them. He would have liked this calm, she said, voice steady and simple. Dana arrived with a folder and a clean, practical smile. We'll sign nothing tonight, she said. We only review, then file tomorrow. She opened the folder and slid a summary to each of us. We tightened your estate plan to match the life you're living, she said. I poured iced tea and let the words find level ground before we touched them. First, Dana said, tapping the top page, updated will and a pour-over will. She gave the plain meaning without a lecture. The pour-over will moves leftover assets into the trust at death, she said. It's a backup will. I nodded because backups keep peace when timing fails. Second, she said, we refreshed trustee guidelines. Discretionary distributions mean case-by-case support, she added. That's money for health, education, maintenance, and support, not business risk. Megan read each line like a nurse reading orders out loud. Third, Dana said, we added a successor trustee if you're ever unable. Fourth, a healthcare proxy, she said. That's a medical decision maker. Lorraine asked who signs where and when. Dana answered with calm steps. Nothing dramatic lived in the papers. The strength was the rails they made. Fifth, Dana continued, we added a clause about no third-party pledges. She said it the way mechanics name a guard on a dangerous wheel. No one can use the trust as collateral or hint that it stands behind deals, she said. Even by suggestion, I felt something unclench that I didn't know was holding. Megan folded her summary and sat straighter without trying to look brave. Tyler's lawyer sent the apology, Dana added, tone neutral, not triumph. Vendor balances are paid and we have receipts. His debt schedule arrived, she said. Messy, but truthful. Lorraine exhaled like a long winter letting go. Truth is cheaper than charm, she said. It always was. We just forget sometimes. We ate before signing because food makes paper feel less heavy. The chickens across the fence clucked like gossip that forgot the story. A neighbor's mower thumped once and then gave up, merciful and kind. I thought revenge would feel bigger, Megan said, half to herself, half to us. It didn't, she added. It just felt like shutting a door. That's all it is, I said. A door with a good latch and clear hinges. Dana nodded and rested her pen on the folder like a nurse parks a chart. The court extended the injunction by agreement, she said. 1 year, reviewable, with a mutual non-disparagement. He keeps distance, she added. You keep quiet, and everyone breathes. The tea sweated rings on the table that looked like small moons. Block B. We signed the documents inside at the kitchen table where life happens. Dana notarized with a firm stamp and a smile that didn't ask for applause. She logged the time, the witnesses, and the sequence without theater. This is the part people skip when they want a movie, she said. But this is the part that keeps futures from wobbling. Megan tucked her copy into a simple blue folder, nothing fancy or loud. I kept the name, she said, but I won't keep the mess. We'll file for dissolution next month, Dana said. Clean, uncontested, fast. Lorraine washed the serving dishes with a rhythm that sounded like sleep. The house felt like a shop after shutdown, machines cooled, floor swept, tools in their place. After dinner, we sat again on the porch while the sky turned pinstriped. A breeze from the alley lifted the edge of the napkins. I told Megan what I had never said during the storm. I loved your dad, I said. He wasn't steady with money, but he loved you clean. He asked me to be the boring one, I added. So I chose boring on purpose. Megan smiled the smile she saved for truth. That doesn't show off. Boring is safe, she said. Safe is brave when everyone shouts, leap. Lorraine touched her shoulder and didn't need any other words. Dana closed her folder and leaned back like a runner after a finish line. Paper won tonight, she said. That's my favorite kind of win. We raised glasses when the yard lights clicked on by themselves. The toast wasn't long or decorated, just built like a good beam. To honest work, I said, voice level as the table. To health, to quiet, to money that tells the truth. Megan added one more line that belonged only to her. To doors that close softly and locks that don't stick, she said. Lorraine lifted her glass and nodded to the dark edges of the yard. To families that hold the line without breaking the room, she added. We drank, not to forget the mess, but to honor the repair. The night accepted the toast and didn't demand another. Later, alone on the porch, I read Megan's card she'd given me. The lines were simple and fit inside one breath. Thank you for being boring when my heart wanted fireworks, it said. Thank you for choosing rails over sparks. I folded it back into the envelope and felt something ease for good. Revenge had looked like a courtroom in my imagination decades ago. Tonight it looked like a kitchen table, a notarized stamp, and a laugh. It sounded like a pastor's simple vows and a lawyer's clear sentences. It felt like the steady hum of a refrigerator when you finally notice it. I carried the glasses inside and turned off the porch light. The night didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a shop closing on time. In the morning, I'd file copies and put the originals in the safe. We'd go to church, then to the diner, then to the park. Megan would bring iced tea in a thermos, and Lorraine would bring butter cookies. Dana would join us if court allowed, and if not, next week. The future didn't need trumpets, it needed maintenance and checks, and I felt ready to keep both with steady hands and a simple ledger. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like the video and tell me what you think in the comments. And of course, subscribe for more stories like this one.